So this next session, official, unofficial, don't know, somewhere between the two. A lot of you will be aware that actually in response to, who asked the question earlier about the 72% versus, I think the figure, Gemma might correct me, it was something like 7%, the IA said, fund inflows into sustainable, responsible and ethical funds. So there's this massive mismatch, right? And there always has been. It's actually better than it was. It was 1 or 2% just a couple of years ago, and we're now up to about 7% of funds sitting in funds that have got decent sustainability standards and actually care about this stuff. And I had said to the FCA back in probably 2019, 2020, when Robin Kite and I, who usually comes to this event but wasn't able to make it today, coming up from Taunton, but he'd introduced me to the FCA, said you need to talk to these people about rules that they're thinking about developing. And one of my early comments was, yeah, but we mustn't forget advisors, because I'd always worked in the advisor space, and I felt that advisors needed help. There were a lot of misconceptions, a lot of not very helpful information that was being put out to advisors, and frankly, it was easier to ignore the area. So you may know from the Green Finance roadmap that came out in 2021 at COP26, when I was officially appointed Disclosure Enabled Advisory Group member for the FCA, one of the sections of their table they had for their work plan was to do something in the advisor space, and it was really that. It was nothing remotely specced out at that stage. So what's happened since then is a number of conversations, and they basically decided to set up an advisory group. And the advisory group, a lot of the people there are people that I've known for some of them a very, very long time, Lee. To say, come on, what does good look like in this area? What help do advisors need? And we were tasked with creating a framework for advisors and the people who train advisors, because there's no point just pretending this is all about advisors and somehow the information is just going to magic itself, because it won't. So we need to help training. It could be a training entity, or it could be someone who runs training within an advice firm to give them the ammunition they need in order to really get this stuff out to clients and understand, it is kind of warts and all, this area, right? It's not perfect, because no company's perfect, no asset's perfect. So it's a matter of understanding and embracing the complexity and saying, and do you know what, different opinions, it's absolutely fine. Just so long as a client knows what they're getting, or a portfolio manager knows what they're getting, then life is good. As long as we're not mis-selling and people have got the options to reflect their views through their strategy, then certainly from a regulatory perspective, we're fine. My personal perspective, I want to see all assets moved into those companies that are driving the transition forwards. That's what I want to see. But from a regulatory perspective, it's about making sure clients aren't misled. So there's a big focus on that in the report. So I've spent a lot of the last 2 years, well, 22 months, I guess, writing, rewriting, and rewriting this report. And a guy who's now stood down from the committee, Danby Block, helped us come up with the structure of it. And I think it's pretty good. So thank you to Danby, even though he's not here today. We've got 3 elements. There's an essential knowledge, so basics, what stuff do you need to know in order to get your head around what this area is all about. So things like, what are the sustainability issues? It started off in the committee talking about climate. We fortunately then extended that to nature. We've got a nature panel in a minute, and then social issues as well, absolutely vital. So we did grow it as we were going along. Public attitudes, the research, making intermediaries aware of this 72%, because most advisors don't think it's anything like that number. So just saying, this is what the FCA research is saying. Agree with it or disagree with it, but at least be aware. Regulation and compliance, so it's SDR. This is developed to take SDR forwards into the advice space, but also highlighting the areas where it overlaps with consumer duty. And just help people to recognize that this is all about giving really good advice. No one's trying to push you into funds where the risk levels are insane or it's totally inappropriate for other reasons. This is about, good financial sense and making this all work better. So then the next bit is understanding the products, sustainable investment products. I think that bit's now actually being moved into the appendix. But just to understand what people mean when they're saying things, because there's lots of funds where you've got to look at the assets and say, this company may not scream, oh, look, I've solved world problems, I'm, doing whatever, but their businesses aren't going to go away, so we've got to make them as sustainable as possible. So by choosing the leaders in particular areas, we can do good things. We can get companies to understand there's benefits of having sustainability leadership, whatever area you're in. So leaders, and then you've got obviously solution providers and those providing useful services that everyday people want, and then you've got those that have maybe got innovative products that may be a tiny proportion of their turnover, but they're the first people in the market to ever do it. Of course it's a tiny portion of their turnover. So just trying to explain all those dynamics to people, I think, can help deal with some of the, so I've worked with advisors since I was like 23, deal with some of the criticisms of the sector where people look at it and go, well, it's either black or it's white. Well, no, of course it isn't. We've got a full range of colours in here. So I've tried to really get that into the report, and there's quite a lot on that, and some people telling me there's too much on it, but that's why a lot of it's gone into the appendix now. So that's your basic information. Then you've got an advisor framework, and that's split into two sections. There's the business framework. So if you are a manager of a business, and we've got one or two people here who kind of work, if you like, in the head office function, so what are the bits you ought to be looking at in order to integrate this across your business? So you probably need to have a committee or someone that's been made responsible. You probably want to set some dates and some targets on the governance structure. All that stuff is part of the business planning of, well, okay, if all these people are interested and we're nowhere near where the FCA thinks we perhaps ought to be, what can we do to address that? And probably we won't get to the 72%, but if we get to 20 or 30, great. And then it grows over time as confidence improves, hopefully. And then there's the advice framework, so the actual sitting down with clients. So it's, what information's in the public domain about the services that you offer, things like what questions do you ask, so fact-finding suggestions, just the various duties, if you like, that an advisor would have regularly, just suggestions as to how you build it into your everyday work without making a song and a dance about it or saying, this is something completely different. You've got regular advice here for those people who want to make money and you've got this other thing over here. No, bring it all together. So that's the plan. Sorry, too many hand movements here, but we spent a long time trying to work out how this all works. So you've got the business framework, the advice framework, and then the training framework is basically, so there's... So Paris at Charles Stanley's been doing a lot of work on this with us, although unfortunately she's unwell, I think, at the moment, so not able to be here. But she was helping us create a structure, and then I've kind of tweaked the wording to make sure it reflects the rest of the report and bring continuity without. So hopefully we've got training providers who will now be able to use all that basic knowledge and information that's been gathered from our pretty big committee, pull it all together, design training. Advisors then know how to bring it into their businesses overall, and then what to do when they're sitting down talking to a client. That is the vision. I've spent a huge amount of time pro bono doing this. I hope to goodness it works, but it's not necessarily a foregone conclusion that it's going to be an instant success. But I wanted to be able to consult with people like you guys here today on it before it went live. Unfortunately, some others were not necessarily keen on doing as much of the consultative bit that I wanted to. So I think we probably have a report that people may want to, we may then need to evolve it going forwards, but that's fine, because we'll have drawn a line in the sand, we'll have got things started, we'll have started the conversations, we'll know what we can build on from there, where the gaps are, and we just move forward from there. Same as SDR wasn't perfect first off, this may not be perfect first off, but it will be out soon, okay? So hopefully weeks, not months or years. And if it takes a lot longer than that, then obviously I have a problem. So I notice you're all sitting together, so the whole doing it sort of impromptu might not work, but we have some members from the ASG here today. So, is there anybody here from the ASG who's here? Do you want to just stand up or wave or whatever? Just yeah, stand up. Come on, stand up if you're from the ASG, just so people can see who you are. And then if you're around in the afternoon. So these people who are here have actively contributed, and I must say some of the committee haven't. These people have, okay? Am I allowed to say that? Probably Ollie, maybe cut that from the recording. But maybe that's the reality of having a committee with quite a lot of people. But these are people that I go to saying, come on, what do you think about? Because there's bits that we all know about different things. So what I would like to do now, if these guys will forgive me afterwards, is to just ask you guys to say who you are. So stand up. Ollie's got the camera here. We'll do this to camera, saying who you are, basically what you were doing, the bits you're focusing on from the report, perhaps, and what, any high points, low points, whatever, and what your hopes are for it. And do you sharing my vision that this is to just help empower advisors to do more, or is there something else? So where do I start? Gemma, shall I say ladies first and ask you to start? Because am I
looking at the camera with my back to people? I'm very confused.
Yeah, I don't know. No, I think it's good. Is it?
Okay, because otherwise it's a bit rude.
Yeah.
Hello. For those of you who were in the session earlier, no, I'm not very good with microphones, but this is a whole lot better than earlier. Anyway, so I'm Gemma Woodward. I'm Head of Responsible Investment, of course, Cheviot. I was very involved in the good practice thing. That was mainly, I think, probably wrangling people to meetings. Then Danby did all the wonderful writing, which was fabulous. From my perspective, it's not just about advice, it's about suitability. So there's no point having the advisor worrying about this and the investment manager sitting there going, sorry, what are you talking about? So, from my perspective, it's just like, if you want to know your client, if you want to do the right thing, you need to know what matters to them. And just because they don't tell you, I really care about this, doesn't mean it doesn't matter to them, because they may not know what their options are. So thank you.
Thank you, Gemma. Lee? No, go on. Let's go on. Let's do boy, girl, or girl, boy. Or Lee or Seb, whichever.
Oh, of course. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Right. Okay, who can
Is there anyone here who doesn't know Lee? Shall I start with that question?
You stop it. Okay. Yes, I probably did ask to do an intro. Right. So Lee Coates from ESG Accord. We specialise in supporting advisors from a compliance perspective, how to introduce ESG and sustainability, and I did 30 years in the trenches as an IFA, so there is some experience there. I think if I can divide the audience into three parts, there'll be those who are IFAs who are here thinking, what the am I doing here? I thought this was about alpha and beta, I'm at the wrong location. So welcome to those. Two, those who do it already, so there probably won't be many surprises in the report. But the third group I'd like to focus on is all those who represent the providers. The ASG report, whilst it's clues in the name, Advisor Sustainability Group, the report will be focused on what advisors should be doing. This is an opportunity for you, especially those on the sales side, to get back in front of advisors and say something has happened that's been triggered by the FCA. And there are things that you need to look at from your advice perspective, especially around compliance and especially around meeting consumer duty and clients meeting informed choice. So do not see the report as something that IFAs should pick up. You pick it up and you take it out to IFAs, because it gives you an opportunity to talk about sustainability without picking up the phone to say, can I come and talk to you about our sustainability product? Oh, but my clients don't want it. Oh, okay. You talk about compliance, you talk about the way that the market is moving, and as Julia said, the figures that come out, 70%, 80%, whatever, if nothing else, IFAs, I know because I did it for 30 years, really like to get one over on the regulator if they can. So you can take that 70% figure into an IFA practice and say, this is what the FCA is saying, you're probably different to that. Why don't you prove the FCA wrong? Why don't you go and ask your clients, everyone, and then prove them wrong? Now, the subtext of that is, once they ask every client, they'll be surprised about how many say yes. So use the report as a way of getting in front of IFAs without doing the, can I talk to you about sustainability? Because that tends to go nowhere at the moment, unfortunately.
Maybe over to Seb next, maybe? I'll let. No, I've changed my mind, sorry. My prerogative.
So, hermaphrodite.
I'm Seb, I'm not sure what a pronoun is.
You think I do?
That didn't start the way it was, the way I was meant to. So I was invited to join the subgroup that was called Sustainability 101, and the premise of that was it's very difficult to talk about sustainable finance unless you have a really good understanding of what sustainability is. So that's why we start with sustainability issues and concepts first and build finance on the top of that. I didn't do an introduction. I'm a financial advisor. I run a little firm. I'm SOLA accredited. I'm a chartered financial planner with the PFS. I'm a member of STEP. And so I'm bound by multiple codes of ethics. And all of those, every single one of those codes of ethics says, tell the truth. They have slightly different words for saying it, but they all say, tell the truth. And we have to find a way of telling the truth about future climate scenarios to our clients and basing our advice on that. And our huge ally in doing that is the work that IOFA and Exeter University have done. Mark wasn't here this morning when Julia said stand up. So,
Yeah, there you go.
So Mark can stand up
So
now.
if you want to know more about the
give a
dashboard,
wave.
this is Mark. Yeah.
And talk to Mark about the dashboard. Yeah, I think that was my role. We have to bring these honest, truthful stories about the future into our advice processes. And if we do that, then sustainable finance becomes an absolute no-brainer. You don't have to sell it to anyone if you've told the truth about the future. Because people just say, right, that's unacceptable. How do we solve that? And that's a very natural response. Who's next?
To Maya. So I decided to leave Maya to last, hugely well planned on my part, clearly, because Maya has, what can I say, on more than one occasion kept me in this, right? Because it's not been easy writing it. And Maya's been an absolute superstar, looking after me, keeping me in. Maybe I should have said that after you'd spoken. But yeah, so if you'd like to say who you are, please.
Yes, thanks, Julia. So my name is Maya Erzeg. I'm Senior Policy Advisor at PIMFA. And as some of you may know, PIMFA provides the role of Secretariat for the ASG. It's been a long journey, and everyone's already said everything important, so I'm not sure what I'm going to say now. But from the point of view of a trade association and from conversations I've had with lots of firms, this is such an important piece of work because, as we all know, there are no suitability rules for advisors when they recommend funds, but we all know that Consumer Duty requests firms to ensure that when they support retail clients, they absolutely make sure that they take into account their sustainability-related needs and preferences. So advisors need to understand this, and they need to be able to match those needs and preferences with funds. And this is, for me, this report should go a long way to build capabilities within firms. And this is really important for smaller firms. And in PIMFA, we have a lot of smaller firms in our membership. And I think some of them have been struggling in this area. It's much easier for larger firms. So my hope is that this report is going to be helpful in a way that it's going to help advisors provide advice in an effective way and also with greater knowledge and greater confidence.
Brilliant, thank you. And thank you for all your help on it. There you go, Rob's next to you. So, yeah, I think that gives you a really fair idea of the range of objectives and opinions and expertise that we've got on the committee. Hopefully it's going to prove to be really useful. I think the only other thing I need to say is that I genuinely don't know where it goes next. Right? So, you know, my expectation is the FCA will do something with it, but they've got to decide what they want to do with it, if something. So I can't make any promises that it will instantly change anything overnight. But I hope that it will become part of, you know, if you like, the kit bag for advisors and intermediaries and portfolio managers and those talking to others, because we actually reference advisors and wealth managers throughout the report. And actually, as you can see, the appendix red box on the screen, you've got things like strategies and approaches being explained, asset selection basics, glossary of all the key terms in the area, compliance, due diligence checklists, SDR, systemic risks, SWOT analysis for business planning stuff, the links to regulatory information. The appendix is big, right? And it's not in maybe the most beautiful order. A lot of us sort of doing this fitting in between other things. But hopefully it creates that massive information that's the support that particularly small and medium-sized advisory firms need and will find useful and help to create a common language when people say, oh, I was using that term to mean this, and it actually means that. That's why that's why it looked like they were all lying to me. It didn't actually mean that, fair enough. So I hope it takes us a really big step forwards. I can't promise more than that, but I will be delighted once it's out and in the public domain, and I really, really hope you find it useful, because I've put a ton of time into it, and so has Maya. And everyone on the committee's worked on it, but Maya and I have been doing it, you know, every week for the last 22 months. Question over here, Helen.
I don't need a mic, I'm loud. Thank you so much. Could I maybe ask that you do a couple of webinars when it is kind of a real thing,
well,
just to
yeah,
kind of
100%.
Communicate it across all the networks? That would be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I definitely will do stuff on it. Yeah, I mean, our chair hasn't been keen on us doing a lot of outreach for various reasons. And that starts, which is partly why I'm saying I don't know where it quite goes next, because it hasn't been, to my mind, it's not been socialised perhaps as much as we could have done. But it will be out there, and it'll be the beginning of something. Just not quite sure what it's the beginning of. But I will absolutely. So hopefully everyone here is on my newsletter list, hopefully. I think we've got Eventbrite set up now so that you automatically drop into it. Didn't used to have that. I felt it was wrong, but I was told that everybody does it, so that's what we've now got. So you will all get to hear about it, assuming that you've signed up via the normal channels. And I think that's really all I want to say on that, unless there's any other questions at all. Stunned silence. Do I get people to stand up, jump around a bit before the next session? Or Solly, you'll get them to do that, won't you? I haven't seen Solly for about 25 years, but it's lovely to see you. So with that, I'm going to... Well, actually, can I just ask for one more round of applause for these guys for the work?